Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri Karjala, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And today I am doing something a little different. So many of my friends and podcasting friends have asked, when have you done, or are you going to do a solo session? And I said, no. I like to have guests on. But today I'm taking my stab at doing a solo session. I have not planned or prepped anything, just to come here to you live and real. Um, 2 nights ago, I was sitting down in my patio back with my fireplace, and I was having a conversation with a girlfriend, and we were talking about this week, for me. And I told her, I said, we have Mercury in retrograde. We had some really intense moon, and we had all this other stuff that was happening. And I said, it was really intense. And she said something that I thought, you know what, I need to share this. And that was, she's like, Teri, we see you as this really positive, uplifting being. That's what you talk about. That's what you spew about. That's what invite others to play in that space in. And that's all true. And I want to be very transparent in saying we all, okay, including myself, have moments, have weeks, have days that really push us, that really challenge us, that really, you know, force us to look inward, that force us to expand, that force us to do things that we may not want to do, as far as like taking that risk or taking that leap of faith, right? And I want to normalize that a bit, because I think sometimes there's a lot of shame or guilt, or, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? Or what am I, woe's me sort of thing. And that's not the case at all. Like we all have it, right? Life is happening for us, not to us, as I always say. And there are things that are going to show up for us that are not all unicorns and fairies and all that fun stuff, right? And I see that as when that stuff shows up, um what is my part in it, what is my role in it, but also looking for the gifts. And in the beginning, I was horrible at the skill. Like I didn't even have the skill. I actually came from, believe it or not, and people are shocked when they hear this, that I used to be the victim of my entire life. Like everything was everybody else's fault. Like I remember distinct situations where I was just blame, 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 blame. Now in my life now, that can be kind of a trigger button for me, honestly, when I have someone that doesn't take any ownership, doesn't take any responsibility for their, actions or behaviors. And so I have to be careful and be aware of that. But at that time in my life, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And I didn't know that there was some amazing tools, and there was amazing things that my own personal development that has evolved over the years. And so I came from that viewpoint that it was everybody else's problems, right? And as you can imagine, what we think about, we bring about, right? So I had a really hard time. I was really addicted to the struggle, if you will. And I was just always constantly spiraling down. And once I would spiral down, I would stay there for, sometimes I feel like, for months, right? Like some months. And then I would come back up and I'd feel good. And that would last it was a very short-lived experience. and I go back down. And that became my norm. That became my reality. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I evolved and as I grew and as I learned and as I, brought in amazing mentors in my life that kind of guided me and was my guide, I started experiencing a different reality. I started experiencing a different shift. And it was at that moment where I was like, ooh, this is a lot easier. This brings me a lot more joy. And so it was kind of my own like epiphany that happened that kind of transitioned me over to this place and space that I currently live. And now I live in this space probably about 90 to 95% of the time. Um, um, but there are moments and days and weeks, and hence this week, and when I was having this conversation, I'm gonna come back full circle here, having this conversation with a girlfriend, and she's like, it's good to hear that you have had struggles too. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I hope that I'm very transparent with my groups. I'm very transparent with my clients. Now, of course, I usually dose this up with some humor, but I'm very transparent with the folks that are in our circle in my coaching programs and things like that. This is real life, right? And how am I utilizing that to model for my clients, or how am I using this to model for other people? And so, yes, cruddy things happen. Cruddy things happen to all of us. And how are we reacting and responding? And in total transparency, there's times that I'm like, I am not the way I respond, maybe not the way that I could have thought it through better, right? So giving some grace for yourself to say like, okay, that didn't go the way liked it to. And is there a better way next time? Of course, right? Um, so, giving ourselves grace. And here's what when things are showing up that feel like they're out of my control, because I believe, and this is my own personal belief here, is that the only thing that we can control is how we show up. Are we responding? Are we reacting? Are we showing up in a positive place? Are we showing up in a negative place? Are we showing up in happiness, or are we showing up in fear? Right? So that's the thing, that's the piece that I believe that we control. Now, everything else is, again, showing up for us. And even in those difficult times, and even this past week when I was like, it's really intense energy, and I can see it almost with like two viewpoints now. Like I can see it happening, and I can immediately, and it's kind of annoying. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, totally honest, that it's kind of annoying because I can kind of see the gifts as it's playing out. Because I used to have to like I'd have to wait and process and process and process. And then a week later, a month later, a year later, maybe 5 years later, I'd be like, oh, I can be grateful for it because, right now, in this kind of annoyance, in a way, I can see the gifts as it's happening. So as it's playing out, I'm like, oh yeah, like there, okay, this makes sense. Okay, here's why this might be showing up for me. Okay, didn't see that coming, but you know what? Now I understand. I have more clarity. Okay. And this week, I'm just getting goosebumps, like even just like having this idea of talking about this, that this week was powerful. And I knew that these two situations that happened they were connected, which didn't seem connected at the time. They were connected. And by those two experiences happening within that week, it was like game over. Like it was powerful movement. And so grateful, because as a result of that, it shifted some other experiences into like full motion. And I'm like, okay, I got this, and so powerful, powerful stuff. But it doesn't start that way. It doesn't start that way to be able to see the gifts as it's playing out. That wasn't my case. And some of you might have some superhuman powers, and that might be your power, your superpower. And you're like, oh yeah, Teri, this is nothing, right? Because we all have our unique gifts. We have our all unique ways of doing life. And, I was thinking on another topic, but I will hold that for another call or another time. But giving yourself grace. And so when things are showing up for me that I don't necessarily understand, that I have not found the gifts in it, I have not found the gratitude for it. Um, I will just pause for a moment and I just ask one of my mantras. I have many mantras depending on what situation happens, but one of the mantras that I have is this, this is happening for me, not to me. This is happening for me, not to me. Now I might be rocking and saying that this is happening for me, not to me. But I just I give myself some space. Okay. I give myself some space to allow the awareness, to allow the insight, to allow that download, whatever that might be, to come to me. And I'm going to receive it fully, even if it stings. Okay. Because sometimes, things don't come to us all like nice and pretty. Most often, life is kind of messy. Life is kind of, sticky in situations, right? So I just wait for that. And when I receive it, and again, it could be within the hour, it could be within the week, it could be within the month. But I'm just going to allow myself to have patience with that piece and allow myself to understand that this is truly happening for me, not to me. And I may not have understandings. And, there's been a lot of cruddy things that have happened in my life. I'll be honest. And I didn't see it in the beginning. And now when I look back, I'm like, I have such gratitude. Okay. So, um, the other piece that I do is, especially when I can't make sense out of things, and this comes from access consciousness. It's called the wonky statement, and it just when you hear it, you're like, "What?" But this just because our brains want to find out the why. It wants to find out the how. It's a very curious brain, and ego is in there, and ego is driving this, right? And so we want to figure it out. And we will, if we don't have the answers, we'll fantasy fill it, we'll put in our own stories, we'll put in our own spins, and oftentimes those don't serve us either. And so the question that I will start, or the statement that I will actually say, is everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And I think so often that and we say this 3 times, and when we say that, because our reality that we're having is one reality, and it's almost like how I explain this is like, when you're looking in the rearview mirror, and in the rearview mirror it says caution, objects in the rearview mirror may look closer than they appear, right? It's this altered perception, right, that we're experiencing. So that wonky question is kind of like this, that altered perception is like we're experiencing it in this one way. However, life is really this way. And so when we get past that place of like, this is horrible, this is awful, this is, whatever judgments that we have about that, right? Now, if we can come from a place of non-judgment, that's the best. But when we pull ourselves away from that and understand that, there might be another gift or another, another awareness that might be coming because of this, then it starts to make sense. And so, but in the moment, it doesn't make sense. And again, that statement that you say 3 times just kind of helps ease that emotion, helps ease the intensity of the energy. And so you can come from a place of neutrality, which is the best place to come from. So now there's some other things that I do, but I just wanted to really hop on here today and just give you a little bit of value, just have a little conversation of like, and just validation that things are not always unicorns and princesses and fairies and whatever that might be in our lives. And at the same time, those experiences that we're experiencing are here to show us something, are here to expose us to something, is here to have downloads, or is to knock over that domino effect, right? And so give yourself some grace, utilize some of the tools that I shared with you today, and And really, once you're able to, okay, it may not happen in the beginning, look for the gratitude. Look for what's you can be grateful for. What is the like silver lining within all of this? Because it's powerful. And again, what we think about, we bring about. And so when we start to identify the things that we do desire and spend time on those things, life becomes easier because we become in alignment with those targets and with alignment with those needs. And everything starts to line up for us. Listen, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this solo session today, a little different today. Please reach out to me, connect with me. I can't wait to hear more about you, what you're doing, what you're up to. You can always reach out to me at Talking with Teri, that's TERI.com, and connect with me in many, many, many ways there. So I wish you all the best. And as always, be bold, be brave, be fearless, be the magic of you. Massive, massive love to all of you. Mwah. Goodbye. I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at Talking with Teri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.